Welcome to Business Class, a podcast about the most important topics in the digital world. Every 4 weeks, Tilo Bonow is host of the brightest minds shaping our digital future. Why are we broadcasting in English today? Because this is a live recording of our new web show, Business Class Live. As you may have seen on Tilo's social media channels, we have expanded our podcast to a live show where our international audience on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter can discuss the digital industry's most relevant topics directly with our guests. In this episode, Tilo's guest is Stephanie Kaiser. She is the co-founder and managing director of the digital health platform Heartbeat Labs and is part of the digital council that advises the German government on digitalization issues. She and Tilo talk about how far we have come in the digitalization of the health sector, which markets are ahead in this field, and which difficulties innovators face when it comes to modernizing processes in hospitals, medical practices, or the private health sector. Have fun with this inspiring talk in which Stephanie even reveals some heartwarming news, which was first detected by her own digital health gadget.
Welcome.
Hello.
How can our health actually profit from digital solutions? Can telemedicine replace our doctor's visit? And how valid are medical diagnoses started by an artificial intelligence program? These are only some questions that we hopefully will discuss. And Stephanie, maybe you can give us a little bit glimpse on who you are, and because you had a very impressive career so far, and of course, why you have chosen the health sector that you're in now.
I think first I have chosen to learn about product and product management. And I've been in the business now for 14 years. I've started at Jumba, a ringtone company, then built a learning platform for children with Nickelodeon. And then after some time, went into a games company. So I was in the entertainment business for quite some time, which is great because you do many mistakes and you learn a lot from it. And then at a certain point in time, I felt like a little bit more intrinsic motivation would be helpful. And that you can easily find in health and healthcare, obviously. And as a product manager, you can basically go, it's very versatile, right? You can be in entertainment as much as you can be in health. And then I joined some smaller projects and really had to learn a lot also because as my background is product, I had to learn a lot about health and looked into the field of diabetes and then female health and then traveled the world with my daughter and afterwards started Heartbeat Labs as a company builder.
I think especially your background for products and also entertainment sector helps when you build now products that really has the reach to, access millions and millions of people's life and have also give the trust and take out the fear. And I think maybe with entertainment products that definitely can help. And I mean, today, how would you describe someone who has not so much knowledge in the sector? What is the state of the union in the health, tech, digital health? I mean, there are a lot of different terms also, med tech, etc. Maybe you can help us a little bit to have a bit of ground work and the ground layer. What is it, and how would you explain where we stand right now?
So I would always call it digital health, which is, I think, the same as health tech, but for me, health tech sounds a little bit too much technology driven. So for me, it's digital health, and that really is the use of technology, and it can be hardware or software, that advances healthcare, right? That's the very simple and straightforward answer. I think there are vast use cases. I think that's very clear in the system. There are many, many stakeholders, and there are use cases in hospitals. There are use cases for the consumer. There are use cases for the insurances. And I think we all know that, especially in Germany, the state we are far behind. But I think, fine, we have understood that now and we can take it from here, I would say. But worldwide, I would say, well, we all know the hardware is there now, right? Everybody carries a mobile phone in their pocket. I carry my ring that tells me every day how I sleep. Many, many people have a Google Fitbit or an Apple Watch. So we are tracking individual data. And we can communicate with the end user individually, right? So there is a great start, I would say. and we are tracking a lot of data. Now we have to get to a point where we have user-centric products, I would say, and also make use of this data in an actionable way for the individual, but also in terms of big data to help diagnostics, etc.
It affects both. It's not just B2C, what we already talked about. It's also a big impact on the B2B side.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, when I summarize it in a very simple way, for me, it's machines are already and will in the future take over what machines are best at, right? So documentation and big data and learn from that. Necessary, and I don't think it's boring, because I think actually we can learn so much. But then also they will help humans spend more time on what the humans are actually good at, and that's communication, that's empathy, that's what the patient actually needs in that moment in time when they are facing healthcare issues.
What kind of benefits do you think we are maybe even not aware of? Other things where you think everyone is talking about this, but actually what's super interesting is that?
Oh, that's a tricky question. Well, I think especially with data, it's always a chicken and egg problem. First, you have to kind of gather the data and do a lot of data analysis to see if you can actually learn from the big data. And sometimes the outcome is, no, you can't, right? So I can't really predict what's coming, but I would say that big or a lot of data will always help us to take better and informed decisions on the individual patient. And I think there are many use cases and examples out there already, and there will be more use cases that we don't know yet. Right.
And you as an expert, what kind of apps or solution do you personally use? I mean, you pointed already to your ring that counts your steps and measures a lot of exciting stuff. So gives a little bit insight in your digital health.
Yeah, I guess I'm a data nerd. So this ring is really tracking my sleep and my pulse during the night. Yeah, I'm wearing it all the time. And I really hate anything on my body, but this is not disturbing me. And it tells me every morning how well or bad I slept. This ring knew that I was pregnant before I knew. It was really impressive. Okay. And you can ask what's actionable about it. I think to me, it helps to really connect how do I feel today to my last night's sleep and my performance at sleep, I would say.
It's a very technical, but yes. Yeah, I mean, we know all how important sleep is, and a lot of illnesses and suffering start with bad sleep.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
So it's not to underestimate how important it is. Can you give us some examples where technology can be truly beneficial for medicine and our health? If we get a bit more concrete.
Yes, of course. I mean, I think there are some that sound unsexy in the first place, like telemedicine, right? But in the end, it's not really unsexy for people that are in rural places that then can finally talk to a doctor and don't have to drive for hours to see a specialist, for example. Or it's also not unsexy for parents on Sundays to avoid the emergency room and just talk to a doctor about children that always get sick on Sunday night. Of course they do. And I think we are finally there also with the regulation, especially in Germany, that now we can do telemedicine, and I think that will change a lot. I think then electronic health records and finally bringing data together in an interoperable and structured way, and to finally really learn from that data about the individual patient also over time. That I think is a very good example. And I think maybe a last one, chronic diseases and the really over time being a companion for someone, a digital companion, or together with a human being, a companion for people with chronic diseases, and giving them insight into what they are doing on a daily basis and really helping them managing their diseases better. There are so many potentials. I get very excited about this.
That's very interesting. But also the simple things impacting so many people's life. We're thinking about people in rural areas in the countryside, right? Now with telemedicine, that can change a lot for them. Yes. At the same time, telemedicine is, in the end of the day, a little bit more than a video call, let's say it that way.
Yeah.
So what would you say, what really technical developments have been most important for the digitalization of the health sector? I mean, a video call.
It sounds like it's nothing. But I think we have to really look back. I mean, 2007, the iPhone was introduced, right? And that's okay. That's 13 years ago. But nowadays, everybody has a smartphone and you can reach them individually. That's a revolution, right? And we take it as it is just completely normal, right? Now we have the computational power that we can also process all this data. And I think that's also amazing. And that is technology that is now there, right? And we can run machine learning over it. I was talking about electronic health records. So I think that's also technology that is amazing. So I think,
Give us a little bit insight in Heartbeat Labs. I mean, you're here in Berlin, a lot of things going on here on the B2B and B2C side. What is your goal, the ultimate goal with Heartbeat Labs?
Well, we want to improve healthcare with user-centric digital services. And Heartbeat Labs is a platform that basically has 3 pillars. On the one hand side, we are investing into digital health companies. On the other hand side, we are also operatively building digital health companies on our own. And also we would like to partner with big, pharma companies, for example, to work together on the digital sector, because I think that's what we are good at, and not every big company is good at that. And also we are working with Heal Capital, which you may have heard of, the fund of all the private insurances in Germany, which is very new, really investing into digital health.
Give us a little bit overview to your portfolio. Which companies have you founded and supported, and what is your biggest success story so far?
Well, that's interesting. So we have started 6 companies, and I mean, I have to say that we are really young, right? So we're 2.5 years old. We started in 2017. And we have started in telemedicine when it was not allowed yet. And it was also, I mean, we started with Kinderhelden, which is a digital service for young and pregnant women and young parents to really connect through a digital measure, a video chat or a chat, to a midwife. In 2017, we have to remember, it was still not allowed to talk to a patient through the first contact had to be in person, right? At least in Germany. And midwives were allowed, and we wanted to learn about how do customers react to it, because also I think customers don't flip the switch immediately, right? So that's Kinderhelden. And then we started Fernarzt, where you can order prescribed medicine online. Then we started practice chains, because we really wanted to learn also with the patient about the healthcare system. And it was all about learning. And I think for each individual company, I can talk about individual successes now. Let me point out one, maybe. Kinderhelden, I think in 2017 or I think 2018 then, made it possible to be reimbursed by health insurance here in Germany.
And it was a big step, right?
Yeah, and I mean, that was a big step, because the health insurances, they weren't ready for, and they weren't prepared for digital solutions and how to put them into reimbursement schemes. And that's fair. So it was a big learning curve. And I think one of the big successes was that now Barmer patients can use us for free.
Fantastic. And when you talk to founders that you invest in, what are you looking really in startups, and also when it comes to corporations with bigger companies, who should talk to you? What is on your wish list? But also for the founders and entrepreneurs out there, when are you the right partner, and what do you observe?
Well, I would say it's always about mindset. And I mean, as every VC or investor in the very early stage, it's mainly not about the product or the idea, because the idea in the end is worth nothing. It's based on assumptions. It could be a wrong assumption. I think you have to have the right mindset that you, want to change something in the healthcare sector, but also you want to build a valid business, because in the end, we are not an NGO, right? And as I said, I think it's more about personality and really people than it is about other hard facts.
How do you see the digital health market in Germany in general? Are we facing differences also in comparison with other markets? What is the state?
Just to give you one example, and I like the number, I think the e-Rezept is allowed in Sweden since 1983. Oh. I was 1 year old then. And I think we are not there yet in Germany. We have 2020, which sounds like the future to me.
But what is the fear? Why didn't it happen so far? What is your...
Well, I think the regulation was in place for good reasons, because we are talking about patient data, right? And patients and actual health issues. And we all know that in Germany we are lacking behind. And I think, as I said, it has been stated, let's move on. But I think we are taking the right steps at the moment, right? Our Ministry of Health is a very, I'd like to call it an execution machine. And they are really taking the right steps in in the direction of digitalization. And I think the e-Rezept is a good example, the electronic health records that from 2021 onwards, all the health insurances have to provide to their insured people. And also the DVG, as you know, I think this is, by the way, I think we are the only ones out there that can prescribe apps now or digital services. It's not only apps, it's digital
huge step forward, right? I mean,
it's a revolution. Yeah, and it's almost like the Ministry of Health is kicking in our butts, the startup butts, to actually move on. Yes, and I actually like that, right? So I think we are at a good point in time where regulation has changed and doctors can now finally do telemedicine and also get money for it, because that's also important for them.
Absolutely, without money, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and just to our audience, maybe if you have questions, I mean, use the chance to really talk to an expert or ask your questions to an expert with Stephanie. Feel free to just comment your question and we're happy to answer, and hope you will have some interesting questions. Oh, and just speaking about question, there's already a question from Sebastian Schmidt. Thank you, Sebastian, that you already take the opportunity to ask. He is asking, is this an Aura ring? He's asking about the brand of the ring.
Yes, it's a Finnish company.
Finnish company.
Are we allowed to do advertising?
Yes. Startup ecosystem called Aura, right?
And I'm actually wearing it. Maybe I should add that I'm actually wearing it since more than a year. Okay. And usually these devices, they have a 30-day gate. I don't know if you've heard about it, but many people wear something for 30 days. And then, you know,
it's boring,
as I said, like the data needs to be actionable. If it's not actionable, you will forget about it.
And just a little bit curiosity about this ring. Are there any competitors, or what is the deal behind it? Are there different? As Apple has no ring, but
Apple has no ring. We were actually talking about the other day.
It is so. I mean, for example, I think many people don't like to wear something on their wrist, right?
Yes.
I mean, a ring is also fashionable, right? I mean, it doesn't distract or.
If you don't know, if you know me, you know that I'm not the most fashionable person on earth. So I would usually not wear a ring.
In the world of Steve Jobs, you was.
But this ring is actually not like the Apple Watch. I have an Apple Watch, and I should wear an Apple Watch. But during the night, I can't, and this ring is just not disturbing.
Okay.
So,
but this data also then, this is something what I feel is you have whatever your Withings scale, right, or you have your other devices that you track. You have your Apple Watch, etc. You have everywhere data points, but is there something where all comes together, or where really you can show something, or whatever, send a link to your doctor or whatever, that really do something with the data, or is it just for fun that you have your data, that's fine, but what happens next?
Yeah, I mean, that's always the question. And I think then we need to really look into use cases. So
but here, a platform, you could build a platform where you feed in all the data and then you get suggestions based on all the data.
I think Apple Health is trying that. They are also collecting all the data or putting it together. But I think there are some examples where, for example, if you have a step tracker, I have a friend who's using a step tracker since, I think, 3 years. And if he doesn't walk 10,000 steps a day, he will go out that day. Okay, well, so that is actionable data. It informs his next action. And I actually like that a lot. For me, to be honest, this is actionable in the sense that maybe I go to bed earlier tomorrow because I had a bad night of sleep.
Okay.
So that's helpful.
It's
the little use cases, as I said, but they can prove very helpful because, as I said, sleep is very important. I don't know if you have ever been sleep deprived, but it's a terrible state. I don't want to be in.
Absolutely. You're also part of the Digital Council of the government. Which are some concrete next steps that need to be taken to improve our health system? You said right now it's the other way around, that there's a lot of execution, but it was not always that. Are there any expectations to politics in general, maybe also on EU level?
So in the Digital Council, we don't specifically focus on health, right? So there it's more about general digitalization, and we have taken 6 other topics that we want to focus on, of which one is data, right? And the use of data, because I hear a lot, data is the new gold, etc. Data is not the new gold. If you use data in the right way, then it gets interesting. And I think we really in Europe need to find a good way to make data usable for more parties, because in a safe way. No question about this, right? And I think we are now trying to find a good answer to the US and the Chinese system that maybe we don't want to have. And that's our task
always
for this year.
Fear what they're doing with data, and especially health data, etc. I mean, how can we solve that? I mean, it's a really big issue that here in Europe when it comes to data. Everyone is super scared, right? And either blocking or forbid something. Say, but actually chances that we have with it. Yeah.
I would say one, we need to differentiate between which data are we actually talking about. Are we talking about personal patient data? No question, this needs to be as secure as we can get it. But then there is also anonymized, depersonalized data that is rather interesting in big formats, like a lot of data. And I think we really need, in our discussion and the press, we need to differentiate when we are talking about it. And then there is usage data of software, for example, like how many people have been on WhatsApp today? And software people who are building digital services need this data to actually build better products, right? And I think in our debate and talking about it, we need to differentiate what are we talking about. And then I think the second thing I would like to add is that we need to talk about use cases, because the moment we are talking about use cases, everything becomes tangible, right? And then, if you as a patient understand that there is an advantage for you, then you will be more open to exchanging data. I'm pretty sure, and I even think, and Jens Spahn was saying that it should be our task as a person in a state that we are actually sharing data for the better, for solidarity reason, right? For really helping everyone out there and the science.
When we step one step aside Germany and looking at other markets, what are the most innovative markets for health tech? Are there any examples where I said, look at these guys, what they do, I would wish we had it in Germany. So what are the most innovative countries and concrete solution that you would wish we had it also here?
As I said, like the e-Rezept in Sweden we had since '83. And I think it's really interesting to then also look at adoption, because adoption doesn't happen from within a day, right? So it will take some time until also my grandmother picks up her phone and is talking to her doctor on the phone, or maybe through a video call. I think there are also countries like the US, obviously, and China that are very interesting with their platforms. We need to look into these things. But I think it's hard to compare, because the patient in the US is more prone to actually pay for their health, whereas in Germany, the German patient will pay for their car, but they will not pay €5 for their health out of their pocket, because
it's part of our culture, right?
It's part of our culture. So I think we need to see that we are actually handling it in our system well.
The most concrete thing that arrived, we talked about, was telemedicine. I mean, we all agree that it not completely, of course, replaces the doctor's visits. Can an app-driven, by AI, really state with a valid diagnose? I mean, we read a lot of articles that obviously they make their better decision than the doctors because of all the data. But how far will we go? I mean, will it be then just see our doctor one time, or just only have calls, or how do you see the situation right now where so many telemedicine companies popping up?
Yeah, as I said, like for me, it's really the clever connection between digital and the human being, because also a machine will never motivate a patient as much as a human being to actually follow, for example, be adherent with their medicine, etc. There is a human power to this, and no machine will ever take this over. And I think the diagnostics, for example, it should be a support for the doctors, right? Because doctors, for good reasons, have limited data points, and big data can help there, but it will never replace them.
I mean, also you mentioned already Apple, all the big tech companies now also coming in. They see obviously big business. And I mean, what is your opinion on that? They're now starting also collecting all our health data. Of course, they're very powerful when it comes to hardware, to software, to making use out of the data. What's your look as a little startup builder from Berlin?
I think it's always good to have a market. and to also have other players, even if they are big in the market, no question. And then I think there is also an interesting aspect with Apple and Google, is that in Germany as well, there are many people wearing a Google Fitbit or an Apple Watch, sending their data on a daily basis to those companies. Yeah. And at the same time, we are fighting. I'm sending it to Finland and I'm totally fine. And at the same time, we have a very concrete debate about using anonymized data here, and it's out of relation almost. We need to be a little bit more realistic here.
As so much technology comes to the surgery room, to the doctor's office, etc. So is there also a lot of change for the nurses and doctors to train them how to use it? So they need totally different skill set, not just about illnesses and treatments and medication, but also to make you, I mean, I would assume that we are not right there yet, how they really can leverage this kind of data from your ring, for example, to really connect it. And I'm also very sure that many doctors don't know what kind of different systems are out there. How should they also even maybe correctly inform their patient what is good, what is not, what should they do, what doesn't. Is it more the ring? Is it the Apple Watch in your case? What kind of apps? Now we are all happy that it happens, but the information out there, I mean, we can do a lot of PR and marketing around it, but it take a long time.
So there were many questions in there. I'll take two. One, I think, I hope that they don't need as many skills as you predict, because we are building user-centric and easy-to-use products also for the doctor side, for any stakeholder in the system, right? It's not only the patient, because everybody can pick up WhatsApp and it's easy, right? Because it's built in a user-centric way. So that's one. And I also think that going forward, maybe doctors will be curious about what is out there. But who is even more curious about those things is the patient who is sick. And they are already going online. They are already Googling everything.
Dr. Google.
And they are looking for solutions, right? They will continue to do so and do it even more. And they will find their solutions that are helping them. May it be an app for migraine or any other chronic disease out there. And they will go to their doctor. That's my prediction. We can talk in 5 years. But I'm pretty sure that they will also go to their doctor and say, hey, I found something. Can you prescribe this to me?
Absolutely. And we have one more question. I think we answered it a little bit already, but as it came up, I think we should focus on it a bit more. Kari Meralini asked, what about the security and the bad use of data?
I mean, as I said, like patient data is the one most sensitive type of data that we need to take care of. And in the end, I guess it's, again, we need a little bit more relation, or being realistic about it, because how, and it's not a good argument, but how secure is our data today if it lays around in any fax machine in some doctor's practice? It's not the most secure place on earth. That's not desirable for the future, no question. And we should take any effort that is necessary to protect data, be it having hackers in the team who are hacking our own systems all the time, for example, just to make sure that we are not hackable, right? So,
but I think especially for startups, there's maybe a little bit fear, why are you putting in so much data and they have so many sensitive informations? I mean, I understand where it comes from, but the question is, what is the alternative also, right? If we don't use these kind of technologies, and it's maybe the benefit is a little bit like with autonomous driving, right? So of course you have to rely on someone else and hope and trust. But at the end of the day, overall there will be more or less death and less people suffering. But of course, will accidents happen? We cannot 100% be sure that it not be
absolutely. But there is maybe, if I may say one more sentence about this, there is an interesting phenomenon, which is usually the ones that are worrying about data are the healthy ones. The moment you get sick, you don't worry anymore because you want to be healthy and you would do anything to get to this state again. Then you're also fine with sharing the data.
So you would say for any solution that's out there, be it an app or platform, there needs always then also be a fine line where then the system says, hey, at this point you should go to your doctor, you should consult your doctor. So there is, it's not against them, so it's like a partnership.
Yes, it should be a collaboration.
Perfect. If you give us a little outlook, what will be possible by 2030? Which innovations will be the most important driving forces in the health tech sector? So just that we get a little bit inspired, a little bit curious and say, wow, we can't wait that it's 2030.
Well, I think, as I said, like, it doesn't sound too sexy, but I think in 2030, I will not go to the doctor anymore if I have a red eye infection, for example. I can do a video call. It's very clear what I have. And maybe somebody on a scooter in Berlin brings me the cream with the antibiotics in there, so I don't have to go anywhere where I get more viruses in front of me, right? So that's one. Second, I think hopefully we will have connected, structured, interoperable data on safe platforms that doctors can access and take informed decisions on individual patients. Maybe that's just my excitement as a product person, but I think that would be very helpful. And then I also think really giving doctors more time to spend with patients and not on documentation. That also doesn't sound too sexy, but I think the human part in it needs more time, and that's what patients actually need in the end.
That sounds much not that much so much. Yes. Yeah, also future thinking. Let's say that way. 10 years is a long time. I would have expected something more sparkle or stardust. But I see it's definitely a long way. What is your personal goal for 2020? What do you want to achieve?
2020.
This is the year just started.
A very personal goal.
10 years, maybe just 1 year.
Well, for our company, I really want to improve healthcare through digital solutions, full stop. And I want to bring this to many, many people by building user-centric solutions. That's one. On a private level, I have to bring a new human being into life in 3 months. So I hope that I will perform there. And then no digital solution can help me there. I have to perform. And I think then we have already gotten far this year.
Absolutely, personally and also in your business. Stephanie, thank you very much. I think it was very, very insightful, and we had also some interesting questions, I think, and also questions that maybe are expected. And I wish you all the best personally, but also, of course, with your company. I think we will hear a lot, and thank you for being our guest today. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Stephanie, again. Have a good evening.